So during the summertime, my wife and I like to do a lot of camping in the national parks, mostly around Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. And you're probably aware that it is illegal and also not appropriate to be cutting down trees in the forests of the national parks to use for firewood. In fact, you're not even supposed to be picking up dead wood off of the ground for firewood. So where does that leave you? Well, you can't bring in wood from home because they have restrictions on that. There is a risk of bringing in an insect infestation into the parks as well. So what it leaves you with is buying wood that they supply. And that's okay because the wood is kiln dried hardwood. It burns very nicely. It does come in fairly big pieces. So at the same time, I've collected now quite a few small twig or wood stoves that I like to use when I'm out on my hikes. And I was wondering, is there a way that I could use those in the national parks without having to break down those large pieces of wood into small pieces of wood that you need to use in the twig stoves? I'd also like to use them when I go to the picnic parks around the city here. Fires are frowned upon in the parks, but hibishes and small barbecues are quite acceptable. So if there was a way that I could use my small wood stoves in those parks without creating a large fire, I think that's what I'd like to try and do. Well, I have one solution for you today, and that's wood pellets. So I'm going to compare, well, it's not so much of a comparison between my two wood gasification stoves, but I'm going to use my Lixada and my Solo Titan, and I'm going to use wood pellets in it just to see how they burn. Now, I've done this once before, and it worked out very well, so I expect it to work out well today. But it is a windy day, so I'm hoping that that won't have too much of a negative effect on the performance here. So stand by. I did have to make a modification to the Solo Titan that I'll show you before we get started, so stand by and we'll get going. Okay, before we get started, let me show you the inside of the Lixada stove. And what you can see is that the fire grate inside, the holes are small enough that it's going to prevent the pellets from falling through. I did find a few pellets fell through, but they were easy enough to recover from underneath the stove. Different story, however, for the Solo Titan. Let me show you that. So the Solo Titan has a fire grate with holes much larger than the Lixada does, and I found that the pellets will fall through. In fact, if you listen, there's a few of them falling around inside right now. So I thought I'd make a little modification for it, and all I did is took a piece of screen, cut it in a circle more or less, allow it to drop right inside the stove. Can be a little tricky at times. There we go. And now inside the stove, that screen has holes small enough to prevent the pellets from falling through. So let's talk about wood pellets for a second. I went up to Home Depot here in Halifax and I bought a 40-pound or 18-kilogram bag of wood pellets, hardwood pellets, for $5.99, $6 Canadian. I thought that was a pretty good price, but what does that work out to? Well, getting ready to come out today, I broke down 2 small Ziploc bags with 2 cups of pellets each. That's the size of it. And I weighed them, and it comes out to 300 grams or 11 ounces. So I also did the math on that, and I'm going to throw the math up on the screen because what I think is that this actually is a very cost-effective way of providing fuel to those 2 stoves. So there's the wood pellets. I'll show you up close, and I'll show them to you again as I put them in the stoves. Okay, so I have the 2 stoves set up side by side. I have the Lixada here and the Solo Titan here. And I'm going to put 300 grams of pellets in each stove. First in the Lixada. And then Titan. So you can probably see that the Titan, the pellets are about 3/4 of an inch below the secondary ports. But over here in the Lixada, they're at least an inch, maybe 1.25 inches below the secondary ports. And that's kind of interesting because I had mentioned once before that the Lixada had a bigger burn chamber. Even though the Titan is taller, the Lixada has a bigger burn chamber. Not by much, but ever so slightly. But there you can see it clearly that with 2 cups of pellets in each stove, precisely measured, they do sit a little bit deeper in the Lixada. Okay, so to ignite these today, going with the theme that I'm in a picnic park, I've decided to use a gel alcohol. And I'll pour that on top. Maybe a tablespoon or 2. where normally I like lighting my fires when I'm in the woods with some type of a traditional method. This is what I thought I'd go with today. I do have matches somewhere. Momentarily misplaced my matches, so I have a little waterproof match case that I carry in my fire kit. Now what's interesting is I never use them. Never find the need to. Between my ferrocerium rod, my flint and quartz, that's usually all I need. So I have some windproof matches. They're not the Yuko ones, but they're windproof matches of a type. And that should get them going, hopefully in short order. Yeah, it's one of the things with alcohol, it's hard to see going in the daylight, but I assure you that both of those are going right now. Now I'm going to stop the camera for a minute just to give the pellets a chance to start carbonizing across the top, and I'll turn it back on and we'll have another look. So it's been a little over 5 minutes since I put the alcohol gel in on top of the pellets and got them going, and I thought I'd show you where it is. The two stoves are gasifying well. Might be a little hard to see now with the wind, but when I put the stands back on, and I'll do that, see if I can bring it in a little closer for you to see. So the pellets are all carbonizing across the top nicely. Alright, so what I'm going to do, get my pot stands on, put some water on for lunch. Larger pot of water on top of the Solo Titan, and a smaller pot of water on top of the Lixada stove. One for my lunch and one for my coffee. Alright, I'm going to continue to watch these, and I'll bring you back once in a while just to show you the progress of the pellets as they're burning. But so far it's working really well. So it's been about 20 minutes since I first lit the wood pellets, and as you can see, my water's been boiling hot for a while. The other pot, not quite there, but just about to a boil. Now I did find, though, as you can probably see, that there is a lot of wind playing with the havoc with the flames in my stoves. And I did build a little wind wall behind it just to give it a little bit more of an advantage. But it points out for me something that I've known all along, is that if you're going to be using these small stick stoves, they work best if they have some type of a windscreen, be it an impromptu one from Rocks and Sticks, or one that you bring along with you that you use. So it has slowed down the boil time for my water just a little bit. But that's only half the story. Let me take the pots off and show you what's going on inside. Both stoves firing beautifully. Full gasification taking place. Hot. Intense, smoke-free heat. Beautiful. And if I look inside, I can see that there's still at least half, maybe a little less than half of the pellets are left in there. So that'll be going for quite a while. So I'm going to put my coffee water back on, but I'm going to prepare my lunch and have coffee. And when I finish, I'll come back with some final thoughts on using wood pellets in wood gasification stoves. So we're just over 40 minutes into the burn, and you can see that they are just about out. There's still a lot of heat coming out of both stoves. Obviously the Lixada is still gasifying, at least partially gasifying. The Titan, though, is down to red hot coals. Again, still a lot of heat, but not a lot of active flame going on inside there. And you can still see there's still some gasification taking place inside of the Lixada, but that's not going to last very long. So 40 minutes. I don't think I can complain about 40 minutes worth of burn time. All right, let's do a few closing comments. So what are my thoughts on using wood pellets in wood gasification stoves? Well, on the positive side, the first thing I notice is once I got the pellets going, in this case with the alcohol gel, the immediate advantage was I could walk away from them. No, I don't mean walk away and not tend to not watch my fire, but I didn't have to sit there and feed sticks constantly into the stove. And yes, I know with a well-prepared top-down burn, you can do pretty much the same thing, but this was much easier to do. So I'm able to get up and move around my campsite and do the other chores that I wanted to do without having to stay nearby and constantly feed little sticks into the stoves. What's one of the disadvantages? Heat. A lot of intense heat. Smokeless heat, true, clean, even burning heat, but intense heat. It did bring my water to a boil very quickly, which was great. I did put a soup on, and I found that I had to monitor the soup very closely for fear that it was going to burn and stick to the bottom. In fact, it started to, and I had to take it off. You can't simmer, and you can't grill, unfortunately. That's one of the things I've been hoping to accomplish, was that maybe I could grill a steak or a hamburger. I don't think this is the way to do it, not least with wood pellets in a wood gasification stove. I've got some other ideas that I'm going to share in future videos. But for now, I reserve the wood pellets for boiling water and having a nice long fire. But I did make another observation which I think is worth sharing. 300 grams of pellets lasted little over 40 minutes before the fires finally went out. And they're still producing heat down there even now. But 40 minutes of heat, 11 ounces, roughly 10 cents for that bag full. That's pretty good economics in my mind. In fact, one of the things I like about it is 11 ounces in my backpack doesn't take up a lot of space, doesn't weigh a lot, twice as much as I probably needed to boil the water that I did. I think I might start packing those in my backpack on a regular basis whenever I'm out and I expect that the wood could be damp and a little difficult to find dry wood. Today's a nice day, windy but nice, and I didn't have any fear of finding dry wood. But on other days I've come out immediately after the rain, and of course all winter you're dealing with wet snow-laden wood and frozen wood. But you know, carrying wood pellets is a viable option. And it's certainly a lot cleaner, or at least a lot less of a carbon footprint, a lot easier on the environment than some of the processed gas fuels that we have. So those are my thoughts. Clean, even, intense heat, very much so. Downside, almost too intense. The other downside, you can't grill very well. At least that was my experience so far. Well, I hope this has been helpful and somewhat enjoyable for you. If it has, why don't you subscribe to my channel? Click the like button, maybe even share it with a few people. Leave any comments you have on using wood pellets in wood gas stoves, or any other type of stove for that matter. I'd be interested in your thoughts on that. And until next time, it's early spring here in Nova Scotia. It's a little cloudy right now, but it's still a beautiful day. Get out and explore. Take that path less traveled. It'll make all the difference. Bye for now.